event. I'm Susanna Morato, I'm Vice President for Research here at the LSE, and I've been following closely the Transition Pathway Initiative since its early days when we started a collaboration with LSE's Graduate Research Institute. I'm also a professor of environmental economics here at LSE, and so TPI's mission really deeply aligns with my own personal and professional interests. When TPI was launched in 2018, Professor Simon Deeds and his small research team at the time developed pioneering interdisciplinary methods to assess corporate climate action, drawing on a vast range of disciplines from accounting, energy, economics, environmental studies, management and finance. At that time, the team comprised only a handful of analysts, and it's been a success story since then. That same year, TPI won the Finance for the Future Award from the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. Then in 2020, 2 years later, TPI won the Assessment Tool of the Year at the Sustainable Investment Awards. TPI also contributed to a very highly rated impact case study that LSE submitted to the Research Excellence Framework in 2021. The REF, the Research Excellence Framework, is a UK system to assess excellence in university and looks at research and impact. And TPI contributed to an impact case study that was highly rated by the reviewers. Just over 2 years ago, I joined the inauguration of the TPI Centre, a new research centre here at LSE, and the centre was created with the goal of scaling up TPI research and broaden the coverage of the world's largest high-emitting entities on their progress towards net carbon, a low-carbon economy. The TPI Centre's research work is fully aligned with LSE's core mission of producing social science research for the betterment of society. It is also deeply in line with our research strategy, where we try to deepen and broaden our real-world impact with collaboration with our non-academic partners. When the first TPI State of Transition report was published back in 2018, its analysis was based only on 105 companies in 3 high-emitting sectors. Fast forward to the present day, the new report that we are launching today is based on the assessment results of over 1,000 companies in 17 sectors in the management quality criteria, and in terms of carbon performance, it covers 410 companies in 11 sectors. So it has been a very, very substantial scaling up of activity in a very short period of time. And as of last year, TPI also broadened the scope of its analysis and started covering banks, 26 banks, and sovereigns, 25 sovereigns, based on 2 new methodologies that were developed to assess the climate ambition of these different entities. In June this year, the LSE TPI Centre's Net Zero Banking Assessment Framework won another award, the Environmental Finance ESG Tool of the Year, in the 2024 Sustainable Investment Awards. So this is another acknowledgement and another accolade for LSE's research excellence and a recognition of its strong collaboration with the investor community, of which TPI is a great example. Needless to say that we are very proud of these achievements, and TPI is really a jewel of the crown in LSE and its collaboration with its partners. You will hear shortly about the use of TPI outputs by investors directly from David Russell of the TPI Limited Board Chair, and also from the experience of our esteemed panelists. They will discuss the practical implications of independent and rigorous research of the LSE TPI Centre and how it has real-world impact. Let me conclude with a brief look ahead. The LSE TPI Centre is entering a new exciting phase. The Centre's strategic goal is to become the go-to source for financial institutions on methods and data for the net zero transition. Because of its coverage on corporates, banks and sovereign entities, it is in a unique position to produce research that can draw insights from these 3 different but complementary market segments and develop a whole economic integrated analysis approach. Importantly, the Centre has also started exploring the use of artificial intelligence applications, and I'm very excited to see where this goes. Some of these applications have supported the analysis of the latest State of Transition report. And this testing of AI tools is yielding some preliminary encouraging results. It contributes to TPI's reputation for a producing cutting-edge research in the net zero ecosystem. Finally, the Centre is also working on an outreach campaign that will enable the financial institutions to better understand the methodologies, the assessment methods used, and also the results produced. Of course, this is no easy task. What started with 9 people back in 2022 when the Centre was created has now grown to a 27-strong team at the Centre, led by Carmen Muso as the Centre's Executive Director and Simon Deeds as the Centre's Research Director. So now I would like to take a moment to ask the whole LSE TPI Centre team to stand up, please. I know some of you might be outside, but if you're in the room, could you please stand up, all of the team at LSE TPI. Thank you all so much. We couldn't have done this without you. Thank you also to the members of the TPI Centre's Advisory Board and the Resource and Development Committee and the Technical Advisory Board, many of whom are today in this room, and also to the Chair of the TPI Strategic Advisory Committee, who is in the US. Finally, a special thank you to Professor David Webb, who's a Professor of Finance here at LSE, and he was a Vice President of Planning and Resources and CFO of the school a few years ago. David is the new chair of the LSE TPI Centre's Advisory Board and of the Resource and Development Committee, and we're very grateful for David to take on this role. David replaces Professor Julia Black, who left LSE to become the new warden of Nuffield College at Oxford, and I also take this opportunity to extend a big thank you to Julia for all her work with TPI over the years. Julia was a strong champion and supporter of TPI and its work from its inception, and a real believer of the role of social sciences and its role in sort of commercialization and market solutions. Okay, let me now hand over to David Russell, Chair of the Transition Pathway Initiative Limited, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, or good evening to those of you around the world who are listening online. I'm David Russell, I'm Chair of the Transition Pathway Initiative Limited, the board of the original asset set up many years ago. It's great to be here at Council of Economics. I do spend quite a lot of my time here with the team, usually knocking on the door of their door, trying to get in the passing through. So it's great to be here speaking to you and that's also around the world. I'm going to take you back a bit in time to why TPI was set up. And the key figure for it was the COP21 in Paris, which signalled to the world that we need to transition from where we were then to where we need to be by 2050. So Paris aligned on net zero. The challenge that we had as investors was, and I used to work for an asset owner, the challenge was that how do we assess when companies come to us and say, we've got this great transition now, it's fantastic, believe us, we're going to get it. We had no way of doing that assessment. So what we did is through that process led by Faith Ward and Adam Matthews, we got together and worked with Simon Deeds using FTSE Russell data and developed the TPI assessment processes that we have today. And we've heard about some of the numbers. The first transition partner, TPI was formally launched in 2017, but the first transition report was published in 2018. And as we just heard, 105 countries assessed. There were 31 TPI supporters at that stage. There are now 152, so we see quite a lot of growth there. And that hopefully will continue to happen over the next year, next month. There's also been growth in the amount of data that TPI provides and the coverage that is available. And we heard that from both previous speakers. We now not only have companies, we have banks. TPI covers sovereign debt, country analysis, which is going to be increasingly important as we assess how sovereign debt is transitioning. Many asset owners have significant exposure to sovereign debt. Key thing is how the data are used. TPI provides data, and that's the role that TPI and TPI Centre have. But it's the asset owners and asset managers using the data that will hopefully make the transition happen. Using a number of different ways. So, for example, in engagement, a strong critical use of TPI data is in the net zero benchmarking for the C100 Plus international global engagement with around 650 investors. There have been some funds dropping out of that, but it's still a major international group of investors engaging with the high-rating sectors of companies around the world. What's really important in that process is TPI data enable the tracking of how companies are transitioning, where they were and how they moved or not. And some companies will make that as the data shows. It can be integrated into investment decision-making processes, so asset managers can make better informed decisions about how companies their investments are going to transition or not transition, and then they have to decide how they're going to deal with that. The data we use in industry index development, with a strong relationship between FTSE Russell and TPI, a significant amount of capital now invested in TPI-related or indices that are based on using TPI data. And in recent months we've seen both Keynotes and Calculus develop bespoke indices which have TPI, bespoke transition indices that have TPI data embedded in them. Another way that the data we use is to drive exclusions, identifying companies, particularly in the oil and gas sector, that aren't transitioning. And a number of investors, asset owners and asset managers have decided to not invest in those companies. We're always adding and looking for different ways that the data are being used, and today we published some new case studies on our website to show how certain investors are using TPI data, and we welcome more if you want to send those in to us. But investors are always changing what they want, and there's a growth in understanding of what the transition means. So we're constantly being asked for, can we have this, can we have that? And a few of the areas that we're looking at development in are the breadth of our coverage. How many companies do we cover? Started off relatively small, we now have over 1,000. That's going to go to 2,000 relatively soon, and then into the future that's going to be many thousands. So covering the broad indices that investors use. There's also a question about depth, and I think one of the changes that we've seen in recent time is an increase in the detail that investors want, particularly around transition plans. So we've already added questions to the management quality score that assess transition planning. The other thing is about timeliness of data and how that's used in voting. So we're seeing a lot more change in how investors are using our data, what the demands are for developing future products and future data sets. And that's where TPI will be going. To conclude, and I want to repeat a thank you to the funders of TPI Centre and TPI Limited. I won't name them all because that's already been done and I'm getting stared at by Carmen at the back. But without the funding, TPI data simply won't be available. So if anyone else would like to come forward and stump up some money, that would be really useful for both the Centre and Limited. I think the key thing is that we have to remember why we're here. We're here to stop climate change happening, because that's in the best interest of long-term investors. Scenario analysis, climate scenario analysis has its issues, but the analysis tends to show that investors will not have the money they need to pay their pensions for their members if climate change isn't addressed. And that's what TPI data does. It feeds into the work that investors have in terms of addressing climate change. It's not TPI's job to do that, it's the investor's job. So please use the data as much as possible. That's the key point. And thank you for your attention this afternoon, and I hope the rest of the afternoon goes well for you and for everyone else who's going to be speaking. And I'm going to hand over to Stephanie Meyer, who is in her second week at FTSE Russell.
Great, thank you. Great to be here. Great to see so many familiar faces. As David said, it's day 7 of my role at FTSE Russell. So it's a huge pleasure to be able to be here and to share what has been a sort of 7+ year partnership between TPI and FTSE Russell. I very much come from an investor background. I remember the initial conversations with Faith as we were thinking through what TPI would look like, what it needed to do for investors, and so seeing where it is now is a real pleasure. But we mustn't forget the importance of, as David highlighted, where it needs to go in the future as well. The climate transition, the transition to a low carbon economy is going to be so critical for the investment landscape, for the economy. And to be able to direct that, to manage that, we do need the data. And TPI dataset is still one of the best data sets we have to be able to understand how that's progressing, how we can use that to inform capital allocation, how we can use that to engage. And the work that FTSE Russell has done with clients in terms of building those indices to drive that capital allocation, using that data to help inform investment decisions and engagement is really critical, and seeing how that grows and develops. So it's really great to see where we've got to. Looking forward to diving into the detail of the status of state of play and where we've got to date. But even more excited to see how the partnership develops, as Colin highlighted, unique partnership across index, data, academia, and obviously all the asset owner and asset manager support that we have. It is an ecosystem. We need the ecosystem, the economy to transition, and TPI is a really central part of that. So thank you very much, and looking forward to the afternoon.